Okay, so then when you got here, you're like, are you fucking kidding me, basically? I'm asking a question. Like, well, but a lot of it was your approach, like coming up to me like I'm just totally ridiculous, because I still don't feel that way, because I still... Well, because I'm still thinking to myself, I'm going to go home and I'm going to look at my footage, because it didn't cut off until I called 911 and then my camera turns off. But even up until that, it was still weird. Like, just, I mean, you can listen to the 911 call. I'm like, why are they just circling my car? Like, I didn't see, like, a bunch of blasts. Woo! Welcome to Visibly Invisible MS, and that was intense. I recommend watching the video through so you see why that transpired, because that can happen to anybody who has an invisible illness. So welcome to the channel. Let's get into the material. And if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way with helping me to grow my community and get this out to as many people that need it as possible. And it really means a lot to me. Let's go. People think SSDI is full of fraud, but here's what they're getting completely wrong. If you think most people on disability are faking it, let me ask you this. If SSDI fraud is so rampant, why is it so hard to get approved? Let's talk about the real numbers. 67% of SSDI applicants are denied the first time around, and only 14% of those appeals get approved on reconsideration. Most people who eventually get approved have to go through a hearing process that literally takes years. People make it sound like SSDI is just handing out money, free money, but it's just not true. And the ones who suffer the most from this mindset is people with invisible illnesses. If you see someone walking, smiling, fishing, out in public, does that mean that they're not disabled? Of course not. Reporting someone to Social Security for disability fraud just because they don't fit your image of disability is like calling Child Protective Services on a parent for yelling at their kid in public. And you don't know what disability that person has that you might be reporting to Social Security disability. They might have multiple sclerosis like me. They might have severe chronic pain or some other type of chronic illness, invisible illness. You are making a judgment based on one moment without knowing the full story. And I guarantee you, you do not know the full story. And that's dangerous. Here's the full truth. If invisible illnesses were actually visible, if they showed up on our skin like scars just lit up on an X-ray for the world to see, no one would question us ever. Not doctors, not police officers, not strangers, bosses, co-workers, or even family. But because our disabilities don't automatically come with these visible signs and a wheelchair or a cast or a cane that you can see, we are constantly forced to prove that we are struggling and having to defend ourselves. And let me tell you what happens when people don't believe in invisible disabilities. Okay, so this is when they first start coming out of the woods, and you'll see a red SUV sitting in the parking lot. So I'm not really too concerned at this point, but this is the very beginning of the situation that leads up to the confrontation with the officer. Now, I always operate on pay attention, but don't make it too obvious you're paying that close of attention. So when I start to notice how close they're being around my car, I'm definitely paying close attention. And this goes on for about 8 minutes before I get to the point where I have to call 911. Make sure to subscribe for part 2 because you have seen nothing yet when it comes to my interaction with this police officer. I promise you, it is something you do not want to miss.